Africa's energy landscape is heating up in 2025 with a wave of new oil and gas discoveries reshaping the continent's economic future. From Central Africa to the Atlantic coast, governments are doubling down on hydrocarbons to fuel growth and secure energy independence. Good evening, I'm Sal Pier, and this is VlogND. The latest headline comes from Brazzaville, where the Republic of Congo has struck a major deal with QatarEnergy. Under a new production-sharing contract, the Qatari firm will take a 35% stake in the Nzambo offshore block, located about 90 kilometers off Pointe Noire. French giant TotalEnergies will operate the project with 50%, while Congo's national oil company holds 15%. Qatar's Minister of State for Energy Affairs, Saad Sharita Al-Kabi, welcomed the deal, praising the Congolese government's operation and expressing optimism about the block's deep water potential, which spans more than 1,000 square kilometers at depths exceeding 1,000 meters. But Congo is far from alone in the spotlight. Rwanda recently reported its first-ever oil discovery in Lake Kivu, a breakthrough that could diversify an economy long reliant on tourism, mining, and agriculture. In the south, Namibia and South Africa are gearing up for large-scale offshore drilling projects by 2026, with global majors like TotalEnergies and Chevron already positioning themselves for exploration. West Africa is also buzzing with activity. Sierra Leone has completed its first offshore seismic survey in nearly a decade, potentially opening access to reserves estimated at up to 30 billion barrels of oil equivalent. Meanwhile, Angola's Azul Energy has announced a major gas discovery, and after 27 years, drilling has resumed at Benin's historic SM field. Taken together, these moves show that Africa's hydrocarbon sector is not just surviving the global energy transition, it's accelerating. With Qatar pledging over $100 billion in African investments and international firms racing to secure blocks, the continent is poised to play a bigger role in the world's energy future. Are you wondering what the future looks like for Africa? Why these moves did not happen as much before? Shout out to our dear subscribers. To our non-subscribing friends, your support is as valuable. If you can take 1 second to hit the subscribe button, that will be fantastic. Africa's economic future is one that hinges not just on its people and natural resources, but on the rising stakes of foreign investment. In the early stages of growth, countries rely heavily on the contribution of labor. Healthier, better educated, and employed citizens drive the economy forward. That's the stage much of Africa is in right now. The World Bank says 22 African nations still fall into the low-income category, with citizens earning just over $1,000 or less per year. But as economies develop, labor alone is no longer enough. Capital money for factories, manufacturing, and infrastructure begins to matter more. That's where the continent's 23 lower-middle-income countries now find themselves. Further ahead, for Africa's 8 upper-middle-income nations, it's technology and innovation that unlock the next level of growth. The problem? Most African countries are struggling to move up this ladder. The so-called middle-income trap is real. Seychelles is the only African nation to have escaped it. Why? Because too often, access to capital and the technology that comes with it remains limited. That's why foreign direct investment, or FDI, is so critical. It's not just about money. It's about creating jobs, building infrastructure, and transferring knowledge. Countries are competing fiercely for these funds, offering tax breaks, setting up special economic zones, and reforming governance to attract global investors. The rewards can be significant. Nations like Senegal, Uganda, Rwanda, Niger, Djibouti, Togo, Ethiopia, Ivory Coast Côte d'Ivoire are all projected to grow at over 6% in 2025, far outpacing global averages thanks in part to stronger inflows of investment. But it's not all good news. Africa's largest economy, Nigeria, is lagging behind, expected to grow only 3.2% this year, barely ahead of its population growth. Weak governance, insecurity, and critically low FDI, just 0.5% of GDP, are dragging it down. Elsewhere, countries like South Africa, Tunisia, Angola, and the Central African Republic are also struggling with slow growth and thin investment pipelines. Even when foreign money does arrive, it often goes into oil and gas, as seen in Mozambique, Tanzania, Uganda, and Namibia, leaving agriculture, technology, and manufacturing underdeveloped. And then there's the global picture. Aid flows are shrinking, especially after the dissolution of U.S. aid, which once accounted for more than a quarter of aid to Africa. That makes FDI, remittances, and better domestic revenue collection more important than ever. But here too, Africa trails behind. Its average tax to GDP ratio is just 16%, compared with over 21% in Latin America and 34% in advanced economies. Forecasts from African futures show that if the continent can ramp up financial inflows, particularly FDI, Africa's GDP could be nearly $250 billion larger by 2043 than under business as usual. Per capita incomes could rise, especially in nations like Seychelles, Morocco, Ethiopia, and Zambia, which are already showing promise. The real game changer? The African Continental Free Trade Area. If fully implemented, it could boost FDI by up to 120%, while intra-African investment money flowing from African nations into each other's markets could rise by nearly 85%. We're already seeing signs of this. Kenyan, Nigerian, and South African companies are investing across borders in IT, finance, and manufacturing. At the same time, global powers like China, the Gulf states, and India are deepening their stakes in Africa's infrastructure, logistics, and energy, reshaping not only economies but also geopolitics. For African governments, the challenge is clear: create the right conditions to absorb and keep this capital. That means stability, predictable policies, and a business climate that aligns investment with long-term national goals. Done right, foreign direct investment can lift millions, diversify economies, and finally help Africa leap over the middle-income trap. But done poorly, it risks reinforcing dependence on raw commodities, leaving countries vulnerable once again to global shocks. Africa's development story is at a crossroads, promising, yet precarious. The continent's labor force is strong and growing. Now, it must channel more capital and technology to match. For VlogND, I'm Sal Pier. Do you think the future of Africa looks promising? Do you think different African governments are up to the challenge and benefit from the potentials of the land? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share our videos. We appreciate your support so much.